Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in, Dr. G, Dr. G, WTF, What the Freud? What the Freud are we doing? Repeating old patterns that always end up in chaos, defenses, and breakdowns, and how to get out of all that mess, which we will be mind mapping today around the topic of embracing what we deserve. Just a little hint, not the narcissist. So tonight is a call-in show as usual. So please feel free to call in and get on the couch and share with me and the audience a little bit about you and what the Freud is going on in your life so that we could break it down and carve out a new pathway for you. The topic is inspired by the fact that mainly what comes up in the office is something of the sort of the relationship breakdown. And I think not enough is talked about in terms of how do we embrace something good? How do we embrace and get what we deserve? So I'm going to start by making some distinctions about logic versus psychologic. And psychologic is something that is deeper, unconscious, not obvious to the logical system. Logic, as you know, is pretty clean. It's black and white. It's 1 + 1 = 2. It's just that psychologic is seen through a cracked lens of perception and doesn't necessarily make logical sense. But if you study the logic of the psyche, which we will do tonight, and if we mind map the logic of the psyche, things start to make more sense. And then you, like what I'm trying to convey to the world, will learn how to think like a shrink. And one of the things that'll help you think like a shrink is my book, Be the Cause: Healing Human Disconnect. And if you haven't already downloaded a copy of that book or ordered it off of Amazon, please grab the free one or order the actual physical copy of the book. And I just want everybody to know that I have a presence on Instagram, and you can look that up. And every week, we've been blogging about the subject. So look on my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com, and you will see a beautiful article entitled Embracing What We Deserve, Not the Narcissist. And that will be a summary of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Of course, I'm going to add a few more insights and then give you an opportunity to jump in, ask questions, and let's analyze this and connect the dots. So first of all, now that you know there's a difference between logic and psychologic, we can apply it to embracing what we deserve and really beginning to question why we don't get what we deserve. So logically, we might think, well, we've got all of these qualities and all of these aspects to us that are very wonderful and of the light, so to speak, of great qualities that another human being would want to participate in and with. But then again, we have saboteur type of negative core beliefs that rip apart the logic and bypass it and shadow over it, and then basically compromise your deservedness. So let's go through what is going on here on a causal basis and why this is popping up in your life. So first of all, we must raise the bar of what we have previously settled for. We must raise this bar, and we have to understand that it is our parents who set the bar. So if we go to the mind map and look at panel number 1, you see that white light in the background represents the best of your best. It represents self actualization, your light, all of the qualities about you that are healthy and conscious and enlightened. And then we've got all of those shadows that compromise your light. And these shadows are metaphors for childhood wounds. So, childhood wounds most definitively block your potential, block your ability to manifest the best of your best. So, let's go over them again. Many of you know this because you've been students of the mind map. Maybe you've even been through the system. And I'm going to go through them carefully so that you can understand what these are. So the wounds of childhood are either wounds of things that were done to you or not done for you. So they're basically the abuses and the neglect. So the abuses would be physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, uh, being smothered and controlled. Helicopter parenting would be an example. And then the neglects would be in the category of emotional, physical neglect, or the other wound that obviously comes up a lot on this show is the wound of narcissistic parenting, which is a system gone wrong, where the parents put their own needs before the needs of the child and turn the system around so that instead of the love and the flow of care and the flow of nurturance going to the child, the flow is redirected toward the parents, and the child um, doesn't feel that empathy coming from the parent and ends up compromised in usually feeling a sense of a strong sense of being loved for who they are and not for what they do. So these wounds then set the bar for how you're going to accept or not accept people into your life. So, for example, if you come from a family that lacks empathy, well, it's going to be familiar and familial for you to accept somebody into your life that lacks empathy. If you come from a family where verbal abuse is common, it's not going to seem that bad because that's where you come from. And so, what's the big deal? You know, everybody yells at each other, everybody puts each other down. So there isn't this sense of wow, that's really a violation. It almost seems normal. So that's what I mean by parents setting the bar. So once parents set the bar, then it's really hard for us to step up to the deserving category, because what happens out of the treatment of the first few years of life and also beyond is that these treatments turn into subtle and not so subtle messages. They also create reactions to this wound in the form of anxiety, in the form of shutting down, in the form of reactions that are more primitive brain based rather than logical. So these reactions live in the amygdala, and the amygdala is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn part of the brain. And this part of the brain gets activated upon pain. So when there's a painful experience from the beginning of infancy onward, uh, and the blueprint of that pain is your family of origin, and then multi generations of your family of origin, and overlaid by cultural wounds. Well, that doesn't feel very safe sometimes. It doesn't feel nurturing. It doesn't feel containing, and it certainly lowers the bar of expectations. And so it makes it hard for us to embrace what we deserve, because what we think we deserve is all pretty much recorded in these negative core beliefs. So if you look at panel three is a metaphor for our encoding. And if you could look at the structure of the DNA, I'm going to break it down metaphorically for you. First of all, notice the haze in the background. That's a metaphor for the toxicity of the family. Notice the mother and the father bond, which entwine around each other, and the bonds that are created between these two DNA strands. And then if you notice, on the strands are little people, and they're lying around and walking around and hanging around, and they're not really manifesting the best of their best. Why? Because the DNA representative of the mother and the father have multi-generational woundings encoded in them. And so that they're not really building a very sustainable structure for the children. And they're creating a system gone wrong that is built of defective psychological elements, if you will. So what happens to this is that once these psychological triggers get activated, we then go into the WTF, or what the Freud land, which is chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And I'm using this simple language on purpose because I know that as a psychologist, there are all kinds of fancier words for these things, and family systems, and parentified children, and dysfunctional this and that. But I think it's more important for you to see how this entire system is built, so that it then ends up compromising you. So this is a call-in show, everybody. I would love to hear from you. It's almost let's see, a quarter into the show, so we have plenty of time for call-ins. And don't forget to grab that blog, which is already up there on my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com. And certainly all of you are welcome to request a copy of the book, the free PDF, or order it on Amazon, and also request a free consultation, which we are happy to provide. So let's go through this again. Number one, parents set the bar. So why is it that we don't embrace what we deserve? Because our psychologic tells us that we don't deserve much. So this panel one wounding creates reactions in us that are fear-based, anxiety-based, so on. And then they encode into this negative core belief department, which limits us even further. Dr. Albert Ellis, father of cognitive behavioral therapy, talks about limiting core beliefs. And this is what I mean by these limiting core beliefs. They limit your ability to see yourself as worthy, to see yourself as lovable, to see yourself as important enough, to see yourself as anything really all that much. So then that's where the bar gets lowered, and you lower your ability to see that you deserve anything better than what's been set by your family of origin. And so the work that people do to journey through the mind map entails identifying these childhood wounds and reactions, shedding some truth light on these negative core beliefs that are ingrained in our psyche based on these lies and misperceptions and misconceptions that then stick in there. And sometimes they run so deep that they're not exposed till later. Today I was working with a particular person, and we were on panel number 6, where we were starting to process these feelings more heavily, more in depth. And one of the beliefs came out in this conversation that was not caught earlier on in our work, and it was shocking that this person actually believed that she was severely damaging to the world, essentially, and that her core belief was something along the line of, just never going to be good enough, and I'm just a mess up, and I don't even deserve anything at all, which of course blocked her from embracing what she does deserve, because in essence, this person's a really good person and a lovely heart and great human being, but yet the message that she was message and messages that she was imprinted with were so profound and so profoundly overshadowing her ability to see herself clearly, that they took over her life, lowered her bar severely, and limited her psychological growth. And so through the journey, you get to identify these limitations and break out of what I refer to as psychological prison, because that's what it creates. So we can't embrace what we deserve when we're in prison. So we also need to be able to
Dr. Judy?
establish boundaries through this. Yeah, thank you. Is there a call in?
We do have a call.
Bring it on.
All
Thank
right,
you.
here you go. You're live.
Okay. Hi, how are you? Thank you.
I'm good. I'm good. Is this Dr. Judy?
It is. And what is your name? And don't forget, you can make one up if you're not comfortable sharing it. And
No, my name is Lori.
hi, Lori. Nice to speak with you. Okay. And how are you relating to tonight's topic?
Now, will you please repeat that? I'm sorry.
So tonight's topic is embracing what we deserve. Okay. And obviously not the narcissists. And so, was there a particular reason that you called for tonight's topic? How is
Yes,
yeah?
yes. And
So how are you
the
related
reason
to
I'm wanting the reason I'm calling you tonight, Dr. Judy, is I realized a long time ago through doing soul searching and shadow work, I realized a long time ago my worth. And after years, like you were saying, people like to tell you what your worth is. And when you wake up and say, no more, I want to grow, I want to be better, I'm going to do better.
Yeah.
When you haven't had that boundary, when you don't do your boundaries, people tend to use and abuse that in you. So when you break free out of that prison and say, no more.
Right.
Oh my goodness. The hell I've been through.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And you've done so much work. Apparently you understand the concept of looking at yourself through other people's eyes. And where does that come from? Is as infants, as children, we look to our parents to self-define. That's just how it works. So who are we? We don't know. Are we lovable? Are we important? Are we special? We don't know, but surely our parents are going to be reflections of that or not reflections of that. And so that's why when we don't have proper mirroring and attunement and a family structure that supports us, and all the attachment theory aspects of good enough mothering and fathering and family system gone right, then we're susceptible, as you said, to these shadows. And then we can look in other people's eyes, and if they're friendly, okay. And if they look at us with judgment and criticism and try to demean and devalue and destroy us, which is par for the course for the narcissistic system gone wrong, then
Right.
we'll absorb it. Like you said, no boundaries. We'll absorb it, and then we'll make conclusions about ourselves until you confront your shadows and say, that's enough already. I want to grow. I want to be. I want to see myself in a corrective way, as opposed to the crap lens way of seeing yourself.
Right. And in that process also I found deep spirituality with my worth, because I believe that without my creator I am nothing. And there's such a different concept that you find out, because when you're not comfortable being close with someone that doesn't have your same morals or your same values or your beliefs, and when they gaslight and make you feel like you're odd because you know who you are and can and should, good, you can do better than this.
Right.
And they want to just the narcissist wants to just hold you back and keep you in hell and laugh and joke and think it's all right. Please tell me it's not.
Right. And they can do that when parents set the bar for that kind of an atmosphere, right? So if your parents did that to you, then that's going to be familiar and familial, and you'll allow. I had an episode that I titled, I forgot exactly what, but I think it was called The Law of Allowance versus the Law of Attraction. So if our boundaries are not built properly, if we don't vet people, if we don't have a high bar for ourselves and for our lives, then we let our other people across this barrier that may not be so healthy for us, right? And then they infiltrate our psyche, and then they get into our brain like a psychovirus, okay, because it makes you psycho, and then you buy into it, and it's the same process that they're really replicating
over and over again.
Over and over. And why do you buy it? Because you bought it when you were an infant. You bought all this poison. You soaked it in. And so when the new poison comes along, that just tastes familiar. So there you go again. And that's why it's so important to do the work and not just understand it cognitively, but really source the pain and understand how you ingested it, digested it, and how you're manifesting it. And then you've got to take down the system. So
do you think positivity, do you think I've been told that I have no more, I've lost my tolerance level to the narcissist level in my life, and I am not a magnet. I am not a magnet, Dr. Judy.
Oh, congratulations. Okay. And why did you lose your tolerance level? Because if you think of molecules, all right, so if you have a hydrogen and an O2 molecule, they attract each other to form water. And if you have the molecule of low self-esteem and somebody wants to take advantage of it, then you will, like hand in glove, pair up with that person, and the game begins, the game of demeaning, devaluing, destroying. And then the other side is, oh no, please don't, people pleasing, and
love bomb,
so
and
forth.
yeah.
Right, you're right, buying into the love bombing. But when we heal, we no longer buy in, we no longer feel an affinity for that kind of dynamic, and so we repel it. Okay, and then we're free to bond to a like-mindedness. And that's why the compatibility is important. You were talking about spiritual compatibility, emotional compatibility, life goal compatibility. We have to somehow be aligned with the people that we invite into our lives.
I'm okay with me.
Beautiful.
And I don't mean that conceited in any way.
And that's not
I have a special light. I have a special, we all have, some of us have a special light, and we speak the truth.
Yes. And so with that clear lens of perception, you're no longer vulnerable to other people's perception of you. And if there's anything that you feel that you need to self correct by self reflecting on you, then you can do that. You can look in the proverbial mirror and say, you know what, I don't like that aspect of me and I need to work on that. And so that becomes something different than demeaning and devaluing and destroying yourself. That's like a course correction. See the difference?
Yes, I do. And it's good to look in the mirror and say, I'm okay, and you've got things to offer, and love and forwardness and family and grandchildren and things that are good.
Yeah. So
I don't have to stay stuck.
no. And what's possible on the other side is 7, 8, 9, which are panels 7, 8, 9, which is the paradigm shift. I call it the synergy panel. If you look at all those orbs, they come together to form light, and that is metaphorical of different aspects of you finally aligning and revealing your special light. Or it also is symbolic of gravitating and interfacing and interconnecting with people who are like-minded and will support your light. And it's specifically the 1 + 1 is greater than 3 phenomenon versus this other thing that actually I wrote down a quote from my book, which I'll read to you. It is, where did I write it?
And
okay.
Thank you, Dr. Judy.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for calling in, and feel free to keep in touch, and I'll describe the other part of panel 7, which is the flip side. So appreciate it.
You were going to read something.
Yeah, I'm going to read it right now. So there's a part in my book called How to Be a Vampire Slayer. And it's in my book, Be the Cause Healing, Human Disconnect, which everyone is welcome to a free PDF copy. Besides here, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I said thank you.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to read this. Besides sheer avoidance, you can protect your psyche by recognizing the gradual depletion of your energy and limiting your contact with that person. Good boundaries are key to making sure that you are able to screen and filter them out. Selflessness, generosity, and altruism each have their limitations. You must make a sacred commitment to protect yourself from these invaders and balance your kindness, unselfishness, and nurturing with self-protection. So they're looking for kind people. They're looking for altruists. They're looking for givers. Your best defense mechanism is to become like a semi-permeable membrane, which means that you vet people. You don't just let them in and let them through. You don't give them a pass card. You see if that person is somebody that is going to enhance your light, and you check out to see their level of health. So this semi-permeable cell membrane, if you will, allowing in only good emotional nutrients and screening out the poisons. Okay? And that's only possible once you've done this work, because if you haven't, then there's a pass card to everybody and anybody, and they, come on down. The price is right.
Absolutely not.
They could just keep taking.
You call that a semi-permeable membrane.
I borrow these terms from my biology courses, which I so loved biology when I was a young student. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom that nature can teach us, and we can cross-learn from one science like biology and apply it to psychology. Of course, metaphorically, when you have a cell in your body, right? You've got this cell, and when there is too much poison in your blood, it could close down and become non-permeable. Understood? And if they're
understood completely.
Right, and if it's too permeable and there's not good stuff floating around in your bloodstream, then it'll poison you. There's no barrier. So what is the healthy cell? The non-permeable one, also on the other side, the flip side is it doesn't let in the nutrients. Get it? So that cell will die. Okay? If the cell is too permeable, it can it's not a good thing either, because if it's too permeable, it doesn't vet the poisons. So that cell will die also. If it's semi-permeable, it will act as a membrane that's flexible enough to let in the good and keep out the bad. Get it?
I do. Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank you.
You are really smart, and you are really awesome, Dr. Judy, tonight.
That's so sweet of you.
I don't want to take up too much time if another caller is waiting for you, but your information tonight is life-saving.
I really, really appreciate it. I hope I made it simple enough for everybody to understand. And Laura, I wish you all the best and congratulations for the amount of work you've done. And now you have earned to be embracing what you deserve. Now you could take it in because you freed yourself from this toxic bond, and now you're free to have healthy bonds. Okay, so okay.
Yes, I'll believe that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You take care. And
all right.
Yeah, thank you. So I hope that I really make psychology simple. This is something that I love to do, because when you're a psych student, there's just so many labels and words and complicated phrases. And how the heck are people supposed to wrap their head around all that mega information? So the mind map is my version of E equals MC squared, just a boiled down definition of how wounds of childhood infect us and carry on multi-generationally and destroy us, and how to basically extricate ourselves from all that mess and shift out. So if there are other people who want to call in, please do. Love to talk to you, get to know you. And it's always so fascinating to meet people and see what unconscious forces lurk within, because those are the saboteurs. And those are the kinds of saboteurs that keep us from embracing what we deserve. Because if unconsciously we're pushing away the good, if we're pushing away the nutrients, then we're going to end up underserving ourselves, because we're down there at the low bar that our parents set for us, and we're always going to be in that pool, psychological pool of deprivation and not enough. And so if you're not where you want to be and you feel that you're not deserving, then check out the wounds of your childhood, how you reacted to it, and what you encoded in there, and consider doing the work of setting yourself free. Now I had a very interesting question that was emailed to me. Thank you, Robert. And the question was, well, how do you embrace what you deserve if it's not really showing up in your life? And I think this is a challenge for every human being. People might feel, well, I deserve a great partner, I deserve this, but yet, where is that great partner? And there are no guarantees in life, but what we have to understand is we deserve to be even alone and not be with a horrible partner just because we're not liking to be alone. So it would be a case of you deserve to be surrounded by your good enough self, as opposed to deserve to or undeserved to be in a toxic relationship. So I think as long as you feel that you're not bound by these horrible wounds of childhood and core beliefs, and if you would give yourself the opportunity to be patient and wait, and it may not come in the form that you want it to. It's just that you certainly deserve, in my opinion, freedom over toxicity. So think about that. So even if you're out there, you're feeling lonely and you feel that you haven't quite met your partner or your best friend or the right career path or whatever it may be, right? Isn't it better and healthier for you to not bind yourself with this low bar of whatever was that low bar for you? And isn't it healthier for you to just be free to accept the higher bar? So please call in. We'd love to hear from you and understand what the Freud is going on in your life so that we don't keep repeating this thing. And we now see the state of the world, and unfortunately, we're seeing such ugly things in the world, invasions, wars, so on, and it very, very frightening. And this mind map was originally intended as a pathway to heal global disconnect, and we could see global disconnect rampant. It always has been. Now it's just blown up, and we have more media to cover it, and the weapons are bigger and more ominous and so on. You can see that when we don't solve our micro problems and we don't heal our individual wounds, then we create macro problems. So all of these wounded individuals on the planet who have not healed and done the work, well, now it's gone macro, okay? And I've done several shows on power and control versus intimacy and love, and we're seeing a lot of power and control globally and not enough intimacy and interconnectivity and love. That's the real shortage. I know we have a shortage of gas and a shortage of this and a shortage of that. I think the big shortage that nobody is talking about is the shortage of empathy, the shortage of love for each other, a shortage of being humane. So this concept of join the human race, healing global disconnect, dates back to 2001. I talk about it in my video, the 9-panel mind map video to healing, which is available, and you can show everybody a picture of that. It's a download, and you can purchase this download, and I go through all the steps of the mind map. Tony, if you don't mind putting it up there so people can see it. No, it's actually the video program.
Got it. And you also have another call coming in.
Thank you. You can see it comes with a journal, which you download and print, and the PDF of the book. And it's a way for you to learn the mind map and start processing your feelings. And of course, it would be better to pair the video with a therapist that you can process your feelings with. So there it is, the Mind Map video series, and that's something that you can absolutely use as a tool to learn this system and to start turning around your system gone wrong to a system gone right. I want to talk a little bit more about...
Dr. Judy, you have another call also, by the way.
Okay, I'd rather have that than talk a little more. Thank you.
All right, here you go. You're on the air.
Hi, Dr. Judy. This is Robert. You were answering my question?
Yeah, of course I'll answer your question. Thanks for emailing me that. Now, so do you get it, Robert? You know, there's no guarantees in life, right? We don't know.
Yes.
But, you know,
when you go into the world, okay, I wanted to finish because even with all the education, the psychoeducation, and decoding yourself, when you still go into the world and then you feel that low energy, it's challenging, even with the work we do, to stay focused when you're surrounded by that. If it's a work and let's take it for a work environment, and just also the world we live in, and trying to navigate with that was also the other part of the question.
Okay, so the question that you asked was what I mentioned earlier. So how do you do it when it doesn't always show up? Okay, so maybe it hasn't shown up, or aspects of it have shown up, and we talk a lot about our dogs. Robert and I are big dog lovers, and dogs are so special in that they offer this unconditional love. Sometimes we don't have from other human beings. It's just that, Robert, I can ask you, isn't it better for you to just hold your own power and your own light than to share it with the wrong people or persons?
Absolutely. And my dog is with me right now. And it can be also discouraging when you are out in the world and you see that toxicity just so prevalent, so you have to be that with the permeable, non-permeable membrane most of the time, and it's challenging surrounding yourself with those positive people when work, everyday life.
Right. So when you go to work, it might not be the most pleasant environment. And sometimes you just have to look at it as your paycheck, your way of paying the bills and so on. And then when you go home, you've got your time for yourself. And I think one thing that helps in terms of doing this kind of work is what I've been speaking about earlier, which is not to let other people's opinions of you or activations of you fire you up so that you keep getting triggered into chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. So once you understand that you don't have to be this reactive person to their childhood wounds and their negative core beliefs, because we all have them, and people who have them and don't process them, well, guess what they're going to do? They're going to project them onto other people, or they're going to swallow these horrific feelings and get depressed and sick. But these feelings don't just disappear. You can't just wash them away by ignoring them, or just repeating a bunch of affirmations over them, because as much as affirmations are nice words, they don't really loosen these negative core beliefs, because you have to expose the lie, not just treat them with nice words, right? So
correct. You did a video, and you did speak about highly sensitive individuals, and when you are in tune with your own uniqueness, as the first caller was saying, and then you feel that more in the world, where the energy is kind of low, and then you have to kind of keep yourself to embrace what isn't always there, and what you didn't have could be amplified at times, even though you're not triggered. It's part of, I guess, everyday life. Would you agree with that?
You mean that? Okay, say that again. So as you've done so much of this work, okay, so how is it showing up, even though you might feel rotten going to work, or you still feel that people around you are toxic? What's the difference now?
You know what? I didn't get the whole question right away, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
It just sounded like it was cutting through.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that even things, when things are not perfect and you go to work and you don't feel too happy about other people's treatment of you and their consciousness or lack thereof, once you've done this work, how is the experience different as opposed to before you were conscious of all of this?
Well, universally, it could still be a little hurtful at times that if you just want to express the way you feel with another individual that isn't there, um, whomever the label may be, and it does not necessarily have to be a romantic partner at all. And your dog, my dog, she is the best. But sometimes you think, oh well, if there was someone else that could just even listen a little bit,
Right.
and then it is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is what it is, and I caution people about sharing emotions with people who uh, don't consider your feelings, because if you're sharing your emotions with somebody who doesn't have the empathy, then it's even worse than not sharing your emotions. So what I'm saying about when these things don't come up, or they don't, you don't feel like they exist in the world for you, who you're embracing is really yourself, right? And who
Yes, yes,
protecting.
and
Yes.
that gets overwhelming at times. I mean, just as a human being, I mean, it sometimes it does feel, you know, overwhelming, and then sometimes it doesn't. I mean, but then when it feels overwhelming, it's just, I guess it's just part of life. What's your take on it? I mean,
Well, okay, so
even though we're well aware of it.
look, we're wired to connect, that's for sure. We want other people to understand. We need people. We're social creatures. And so we do the best we can to surround ourselves with other like minded individuals who are givers and takers. Because if you look at panel number 8, for example, okay, the DNA, where
Yes,
if you look,
harmony.
right, there's little people climbing up the ladder,
Yes,
and it's teamwork, and one is helping the other up the ladder and the other one is being helped. So who are we? We're helpers and we're being helped. So it's always nice to experience every aspect of that, to help another
that
human being, right? And to be helped by
yes,
another human being.
the universal unity.
Right.
When you feel like
Right.
you're working with everyone else and there's this harmony.
Right. And so sometimes we just have to look for the subtleties of that. If it's not glaringly so in a relationship, or you don't have a great friend that mirrors and attunes to you, or great family members, then you just have to look for the subtleties, because there's going to always be, as Laura mentioned, there's always an aspect of the light in each one of us, right? And so if we
The
look for that,
subtleties, that's good.
yeah, the little subtleties. So it doesn't have to be this huge, like, wow, I was able to share and they were able to ingest and digest and manifest some wisdom toward me. I mean, that's, to me, the ideal,
That
right?
could be too extreme, like yeah, that could be too extreme and too um almost like a love bombing. It's just too it's not, doesn't go with the flow. It's too out there. So this is a good subject, by the way, and I'm glad you're speaking about it.
Yeah,
I
thank you. I
have
didn't
to.
mean it only as a love bombing. It could be authentic. Some people just love, like, for example, I love the idea of synergy. Wow, I wish I were surrounded
Yes,
by tons of people that were on my team and I was on their team, and I was really happy for their growth and they were happy for my growth. And what a beautiful concept, and what a beautiful world, and true growth partners in all aspects. And and giving people feedback so that they can get better, not just to put them down and demean, devalue, destroy. I mean, that's really the world that I'm wanting to create for all of you, my children, my grandson. Hopefully, I'll have more grandchildren and the future generations, because the more we could teach the system gone right, the more you will be teachers to the next generation. And that's our hope, right? Because we don't want to
Yes.
we don't want to create chaos, defenses, and breakdowns in the next generation, because every generation is just going to become weaker and weaker and sicker. And we could be the cause of repairing ourselves so that we can repair for that. Okay, so Robert,
and also just embracing the subtleties of it day to day, because even if there's not specific chaos in our lives, there's chaos in the world that we live in, whether, even if it's an aspect at work, we're away from it, we just feel it in the universal, as you said, the human race right now is.
Human race, and I'm going to talk more about that. I'm really passionate about this because my heart goes out to the Ukrainian people, and they're in a hostage situation.
I've been feeling that a lot lately.
Yeah, and it's so sad. And then also, do you think those young Russian soldiers authentically want to be there? Do you think that?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So they're in a hostage situation. And so what I'm getting at is that inside each human being, if we approach people from a human and humane point of view, then we can understand that there's so much hostage situation going on. And, I want to grow up and shoot people. Yeah, sure. I can't believe it. Okay. Not really. But if
not really.
Not really. So somehow the big dream that I started with, called Join the Human Race, Healing Global Disconnect. And you can go to my website. It's very underdeveloped, but it's another website I have called Healing Global Disconnect. And my message is right there. And so the message really is that it's time to come together as a united humanity and to put our isms, whether they be political isms or race isms or religious isms or socioeconomic isms, aside, and really understand that, number one, we are human beings, okay? Before we identify ism, we're human beings. And so it's so important, especially today, to take that stand that everybody has some kind of power, you see, to be the cause of their life. And sometimes exerting that power is dangerous. Okay, so for a young,
and there's a lot of cutoffs.
Pardon me?
There's a lot of cutoffs as well, as political, as you just said, political isms, and then someone it feels like everything kind of got very cold lately. There's not that warmness to embrace. There's always an agenda, it feels.
Agenda. This is the same theme, Robert, and everyone else listening: power and control versus love and intimacy. And the more scared we get as a human race, the more we embrace what we don't deserve, which is power, being controlled and being powered over, or even the person who's powering. I don't see that they're getting a lot of light out of it either. They may get a lot of land out of it. They may get a lot of money out of it. I don't know. There are perks, I guess. It's just that as human beings, we want to satisfy something meaningful and deeper in our mind, body, soul, okay? And that's not a pathway to satisfaction. So I'll be speaking more about that. And Thanks, Robert, always for sharing.
Thank you. It was beautiful hearing from you tonight, and I'm going to enjoy listening to the rest of the show. Got my beautiful dog sitting here, and she's
okay. All right, you take care, Robert.
Yeah, good hearing from you. Take care.
Thank you. So I hope you are all learning how to think like a shrink. And if you look at the summation of each panel in the book, you'll see some bullet points there titled Think Like a Shrink. And that's for you to start connecting these dots so that you don't forever have to rely on therapy, and that the right kind of therapy will help you to separate and individuate eventually, and make you be the cause of better outcomes for your life, and not just rely on forever therapy to do that for you. Of course, if you need support and you feel that you need somebody to come to, I'm not saying that that's a bad idea for everyone. Some people just need support, and that's fine. Come, be supported as long as you want to. It's just that I'm hoping along the way that you learn something, and you learn how to process your own feelings, and you learn to really bust the limits on this bar, okay? No holds barred, and bust out of the psychological prison so that you can embrace a higher and more deserved bar, and then manifest a much better outcome for part 2 of your life. So please don't hesitate to call in, and also look for the blog on this topic, Embracing What We Deserve, Not the Narcissist. There's a beautiful article on my blog up there for you to read. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Good night, everyone.
And if you've enjoyed my show, please subscribe to my channel. If you need help, please call the number below. And if you